Get Pucked. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Get Pucked podcast. And you see, we're all here. It's a full house again, baby. We're excited. We're ready to go. I think Dave might have just froze there at that moment, but it's all good. Want to recap just a little bit from our last episode. There's been a lot of happenings in the Habs land, predominantly the wins. They keep on coming. This team is on fire. And they're doing it in style, too. So, gentlemen, I ask you this question, and I ask it to you plain and simple. Do you, or rather, will it bother you if the team continues to play at this level that they're playing and continues to win at the rate that they're, well, maybe not the rate, but they continue to pack on the wins? Does it bother you if they end up drafting somewhere around 8, 9, 10, 11, whatever, but they continue this level of play? Vito, start us off, baby.
One, they can't draft at 11.
Why can they not draft at 11?
Because if they get out of the top 10, they will draft Carolina's pick, and Arizona will get Montreal's first. So yes, I would be super pissed off if they get out of the top 10.
So they can draft at 11, but if they did, that pick would now go to Arizona, and that would be a master.
Well, no,
disaster.
Because they can't draft at 11. If they get to 11, then they're not drafting at 11.
No, but I'm saying they can finish and get the 11th
Yeah,
spot.
they can finish 11.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. I get your point,
I'll
though.
be super pissed given how shitty this fucking year has been. I would be very pissed if that would happen, because that would just be adding salt to the wound.
No doubt.
All right,
okay, so let's say 10 then. Let's say 10.
Would I be disappointed? Yeah, but I mean, it's still a top 10 pick. I don't want them going lower than 5, personally. Like, I want their pick to be a top 5 pick, even if it means it's 5th. But I would really want it to be a top 5 pick. It's nice that they're winning. Okay, it's good. Gives us something to be excited about for next year. But, guys, stop. I can't believe I'm saying stop, but they're not going to make the playoffs. Just cut it there, and that's how I see it. So yes, I would be pissed off.
I think we tend to, we as a fan base, we as NHL fans tend to underestimate, I guess, how hard it is to jump teams in the standings. They are, I think, something like 20 or 30 points away from number 11th, the team that currently holds the 11th overall pick in the draft. I mean, that's never going to happen. There's 30 games left. To jump up 20 points in the standings in 30 games is impossible. So, the other teams are going to win. No one's going to go on a big, deep dive. Even if the Habs go on an 8-game winning streak, 10-game winning streak, I don't even think they get, they lose maybe 2 spots in the draft standings or whatever in that case. So, I'm not really concerned. I don't think it's much of a concern for me. I think that, keep winning, keep doing what you got to do. I don't like the draft lottery anyways. I think that it should be as soon as you're eliminated from the playoffs, then you have to have the best record in order to get. It shouldn't be a lottery. It should be a race to get
that's
to.
That's a whole other discussion that we can get into.
It's a whole other discussion.
I agree, though.
It's awful. It's stupid. It's absolutely
stupid. The lottery is stupid.
Well, because you could have teams that finish at like 10th and jump 9 spots and get the first overall, right? It's ridiculous.
It's a system that rewards being bad, and as much as it's built in to be like a catch-up mechanic where yes, you're giving the worst team the best players, so to speak, based on odd percentages to get better and not be the worst team anymore. We've seen how that has played out recently, and that doesn't happen. They continue to be bad. It's one player, even with the McDavids of the world, it doesn't seem to change the franchise to all of a sudden make it the winning show, right? So I'd have to agree with Dave. I mean, obviously, I don't know, it wasn't really on the docket to talk about today, but we can.
Sorry.
We know, but we totally could if you want to. I mean, restructuring how the draft works. Yeah, I think what you said makes a lot of sense there. Or like a mini playoff of the loser teams towards the end or some craziness.
The problem is now you come to there's no win for the Habs fans, right? Like if they win, it sucks. If they lose, it sucks. It's you don't know what to do with yourself as a fan right now in this position. And it's just an awkward position to be in. You're going to root for your team to lose. And it's weird. It should never happen in sports. You should never, ever have to root for your team to lose. I think it's a bad proposition. So
or you shouldn't have to root for another. Like I was watching the Ottawa Arizona game. Normally I would never watch that. I was watching it and crossing my fingers they'd get to overtime so that they both get a fucking loser point.
Yeah,
and
but
at the same time, it's like, go Arizona, go win, and Arizona won 8-5 in regulation.
But that's kind of like the opposite coin, because now you're more invested in hockey in general, because now you've taken a greater interest in other teams you otherwise wouldn't, because their position in the standings matter to you.
I don't think there's too many people who've watched Arizona Coyotes games. I think Vito has a disorder, a problem. We'll have to talk to him off air about it, maybe an intervention. But I don't think there's too many people watching Arizona Coyotes games hoping they win.
You're saying, Dave, I can't be one of the 62 people that watch the Arizona Coyotes.
You
didn't know Vito's a season ticket holder. You didn't know.
They have sick jerseys. I'll give you that.
It cost me 30 cents. Craigslist.
There you go. All right. I don't want to talk too much about the winning because we've done this already. Another thing that happened in recent news is the hiring of a new skills coach, a gentleman by the name of Adam Nicholas, formerly working with the Leafs, I think, since October 2019. Now with the Canadiens, has worked with several marquee players, to name a few: Clayton Keller, Zdeno Chara, Noah Hannafin, and many others to come with. Not that I want to talk about him so much, because I think by all accounts, most people who know this guy, and admittedly I don't know anything about him, have said that this is a great get. So my question is more this: who or what position would you guys want to see the Habs fill next? Dave.
Man, that's a tough question. I don't really know what's lacking there, because Adam Nicholas, from all intents, I think he's like a skating guy, right? He seems to be a skating.
I think so, yeah.
Power skating specialist or whatever. And I mean, it's a great hire for sure. You kind of wonder what happened in Toronto. I mean, he was there just in 2019, I think. So that's like, what, 2 years? Why didn't it work out for him there?
Maybe dollar bills. Maybe Molson opened up the coffers and said, come on over.
Maybe, for sure. It's hard for me to say really what you need to develop. That's going to be from the front office to evaluate, because I don't really know what specialists they have. I mean, can you name me who was the skating specialist before Adam Nicholas? No.
I don't think there was one. I think that's why it was such a big thing. I don't think they had a development people in place. But I'm not even talking development. Like, would you want to see the next name, whoever this person is, to come in, fill the position vacated by Timmins, for example? I don't think that was filled yet. Right, we don't have
it's a joint thing, right? There's gonna be Marty St. Louis and Bobrov.
I think they're set. I think they're pretty much set on everywhere in terms of their front office. Can they, would I like to see them add more? I think I'm one of I like to say more the merrier. You get power. The more powerful minds in a room, the more different opinions you have, the better you're going to do. And I think maybe that's where you get your success from, is you just go out and you get random people. But from the outside looking in, it's almost an impossible question to answer.
I would, if anything, I would say the Montreal Canadiens are a rich team. They're a wealthy team. They got deep pockets. Add more scouts everywhere. Just disperse them everywhere, especially in our own backyard. But let's make a bit of a funny. Pierre Gervais retiring after this year, so maybe they need a new equipment manager.
There you go. You applying for the role?
Well done.
Towel boy, my friend. Towel boy.
Barely has the qualifications for that. But okay. let's talk about our dear Captain Weber. So a lot of stuff came out recently about, for whatever reason, there might be teams interested in acquiring his contract. Now, there's also been a lot of misinformation out there about why they'd want to do this and what bringing him over and putting him on their LTIR will do for their cap space. I don't think a lot of people understand this. Frankly, it is quite confusing, but ultimately, let's just talk about the rumor in place. Do you guys, what do you make of this, Vito? Like, do you think that there's a market for this? Is this something that Hughes is going to try and do? Or what do you think is happening?
Do I think Hughes is going to try to do it? Yeah, he's going to try to do it. I mean, he's going to try to shell off as much salary as he possibly can, especially dead cap like that. Now, Weber being on LTIR, it still counts towards the Habs cap. You still, like, if you go on cap friendly, you see the Habs are like at 97 or 98 million. But by putting him on long-term injured reserve, it allowed the flexibility to go get somebody that, or get players that equates to no more than what his cap hit is. And I think that's how it works. But I don't think, based on the current capologist with the Montreal Canadiens, who's now been promoted recently, and Kent Hughes and Gorton want to keep having that and playing, doing a juggling act with their cap because of Shea Weber's contract. It's one thing if Shea Weber was playing. He's not playing, and it doesn't look like he's going to play.
I think this rumor coming out pretty much cements that. I
think so too. So, do I think Kent Hughes is going to do it? Of course he is. He's going to try. I just don't know if how that's going to play out, or if any team will actually bite towards having to do that. I don't know. And I know there's a few people on Twitter that are very strong at knowing the cap and all that. And if they watch this or listen to this episode, I expect you guys to comment on Twitter, and I hope you do. Provide us the feedback and correct us if we're wrong.
Look, we've seen this before, time and time again. Chris Pronger, the Arizona Coyotes legend. We see Nathan Horton with the Leafs. We saw David Clarkson. We see it a million times it happen. Teams need to get to the floor. There's all sorts of complications and things that only capologists can really tell us. But yeah, I mean, I'm okay for it. Shea Weber is not a Montreal Canadian. That's you got to get that into your head. He's not a Montreal Canadian anymore. He's done.
His era with the way you say it with such coldness.
That's what you have.
He's right. I mean, the man is right. At the end of the day, if he can't play hockey anymore, and there's new management now. Before, if you would have said Marc Bergevin was still here, then yeah, they probably would have found something for Shea Weber. But the new management comes in, and it's like they don't have an attachment to Shea Weber.
Yeah, and even if you have an attachment to Shea Weber, what does he bring? He's not playing. Who cares? Get him out of here. It doesn't really matter if it's going to get you an asset, or if it's going to free up some cap space, or if it's going to do whatever. It's going to bring you any ounce of good. Do it, man. There's no room for holding on to a guy because
sentimentality.
I would even give it
Dave's strong suit.
I would include an asset if it meant that I took Shea Weber's cap off the books and don't have to deal with that headache going forward. I would add something.
There is a limited number of teams that are going to try to fight to hit the floor. So that there's a finite number of positions.
The Arizona Coyotes once again. I think they got 3 players under contract next year.
Yeah.
Some shit like that.
Yeah, Arizona is obviously the prime candidate there. You probably also have Seattle likely is out there that is likely going to want to try to hit the floor. Maybe 1 or 2 that I can't think of right now. But yeah, ultimately, I just thought it was interesting that suddenly we're talking about his contract moving. And of course, all the ramifications, which again, I don't know enough about the recapturabilities with the Preds.
And that's the thing. I think one of the, for example, a team that people are saying that could benefit to Shea Weber's contract would be something like Minnesota. But I think the way it works and the way I understood from what I had read is Minnesota would have to trade almost of equal cap hit. So they'd have to have basically a cap dump, and you do cap dump for cap dump, and then kind of have Montreal has to deal with whatever that player is. But the player the team that's acquiring Shea Weber, they have that. So the dollars match, but then they could put him on LTIR, and then that means they could activate or get players that equate to that. So it has to be something like that. Don't think that only the teams that have to hit the floor would probably be able to absorb all of Shea Weber's cap hit without having to put in a cap dump in a trade or include a cap dump in a trade.
All right. Fair say.
Like
and so speaking of potential contracts departing, my question now would be, we have the trade deadline coming up in about 2 weeks' time, give or take. Who are your musts that must be gone from the Canadiens come post trade deadline, Dave? Like, what are the names that are no longer Canadians after the trade deadline, in your opinion, without question?
Without question, I'd give Ben Sherratt has to be gone. I'll give you Artturi Lehkonen has to be gone. And I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh, but Artturi Lehkonen, you're never going to get this trade, blah, 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 blah. You have the potential to trade him. His value is never going to be as high as it is now. You got to get rid of him. You got to make that move. You got to figure out a way to get an asset in return for him. And I think those are the only two like must off the.
Okay, now add to it. Who are the ones you want to see gone?
I would go with a Jeff Petrie. Jeff Petrie, I think you'd want him off the books, especially that's what he wants by all accounts, and you gotta figure out a way to get that done. Mike Hoffman, another guy who I don't think fits the long-term profile here in Montreal. And other than that, I mean, it's hard, it's tough. I don't know who else you're going to move. At this time, Tyler Toffoli was one that I was on my list. He's already gone, so it's going to be interesting to see. Maybe like a Brett Kulak, a guy like that, a guy who can fill a good role on a playoff team and step in when fill in the depth chart and step in when the time's needed when injuries come. But other than that, I don't see as many trades. I mean, it'd be great to make all these blockbusters and stuff, but I don't see it as a necessity.
You got to be realistic. Although, a fun fact, you did nail almost every name I had written down that I thought would also upon my but there are two, and I'm curious if Vito's going to hit them. Vito, who do you got? Who are the must
well,
go, and then should go and want to goes?
Sherrod for sure. Lekhonen, I agree and disagree with what Dave's saying. I wouldn't just get rid of Lekhonen. I want the package that's rumored.
You want Matt's package.
You want my
no,
package,
not necessarily. It would have to be.
You want my package, don't you?
Vito wants Matt's package.
You want my package. I got you.
I don't want your package. But yeah, it has to be worth making the trade. You're telling me that it's a not a can't miss trade, but a trade I can't resist or can't refuse. Then yeah, do it. First and something. I move Lekhonen. But if it's going to come out being a second round pick and somebody else, I'd rather take my chances and keep Lekhonen. He's still a useful player. He still does a lot on the ice. He's still at that point, I'd rather try to move somebody else, even if it means we have to eat up some cap. I'll give you an example, Armia, if that's the case. He's the only player that hasn't really excelled since Martin St. Louis has taken over the coaching position. I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt because the man did get COVID 3 times this year. Among other things, but
who's going to want Yoel Armia at that salary?
Well,
like if you're a playoff team, are you looking at Yoel Armia and being like, yeah, that's what I need?
You gotta hope to throw him in and make something else enticing.
And retain some salary. Now, the player that to me must go, and whether it's this trade deadline or whether it's in the off season, I don't think it would be this trade deadline because his value is low at this point. For me, it's Jonathan Drouin. The experiment is over. It's all done. It's time to move on. Heck, send them to Anaheim. See if you can get Maxime Comtois and something like. I don't care. Bring in another francophone if that's one of the criterias. Whatever the case may be, we've done what we had to do with Jonathan Drouin. Yeah, a part of me would like to see what he can do with Martin St. Louis. Mm-hmm. But if it doesn't work out with Martin St. Louis, then what's the reasoning? What's the excuse after that?
Well, he's got 1 year left.
His value will just plummet even more. So I don't want to take that chance.
No, but he's got 1 year left, right? Before he's UFA.
He's got 1 year after this year at $5.5 million. So I mean, to some teams that know they want cost certainty and they get Jonathan Drouin and know that they're getting like that 40, 50 point player who can be dynamic and they have a specific role in mind for him in the top 6, then yeah, he's good on that kind of a team. But it's what are any of you guys impressed with Jonathan Drouin at this point? Like, are we okay with it? He's a good player. He's skilled when he's on. He's fun, but
right. But it's been a while since you actually saw him out there, and I think you said it best. He hasn't been. You haven't seen what Martin St. Louis can do with him because obviously he's the player whisperer right now. Just about everybody's playing at their best. So I'm in agreement for the most part. Like I said, I mean, Dave nailed most of the people. I had Drouin down also as a question mark.
Throw in Perreault in there for a 7th round pick. Send them somewhere. Who cares? I don't
even. I mean, and with respect,
you know what? Yeah. I'll go acquire a 7th round pick from another team. I'll include it in a trade package and I'll give it to Paquette for future considerations.
Like guys like that, and I mean, it's with all due respect to them and everything. Like, they're not even in the conversation because they're gonna be gone some way somehow. Be it they manage to limp their way to the end of the year or not. Like Perreault, I don't see him around next year. Paquette, certainly, I don't see him around next year. Like guys like this are gone. They're just they're going to be gone. It's more interesting to think about what they're going to do with
Jake Allen.
Guys.
Jake Allen might go.
Jake Allen's an interesting one. I definitely don't see anything happening with him.
I would be okay with him going. If the plan going forward is that Montreal's going to, as the word that they use is transform this team, and you want to, there's teams right now that are looking for a goalie and especially a cost-efficient goalie. Move Jake Allen if you have to. Keep Montembeault, especially if you find out that Price is going to come back and is capable of playing either the end of this year or at the beginning to start next season. Then figure out your goaltending, for the start of next season, your backup goaltender, and just go for it. Heck, those rumors coming out that in Montreal was looking into Samsonov. I would love that, and especially if it means you're going to trade away Jake Allen and somehow a package gets you Samsonov and you have Price and Samsonov to start next season. I'm good with that.
Okay. I mean, the only thing I would say, and this is, again, I flip-flop on this because I still would say Lehkonen should go based on what I had suggested as his package from before there, which Dave thinks I'm insane about, but maybe it's coming to fruition a little bit more these days based on what we're hearing. But the Lehkon-aissance that's happening right now, the man is on fire. Is it possible? Is it, even if it's a small amount of possibility, are we witnessing the Lehkonen that was promised? Did he find his scoring touch with his defensive prowess? Is this a guy who should
You're
be
witnessing.
moved?
You're witnessing the Lekkonen that's looking for his next contract. But you could also be witnessing Lekkonen entering his prime. I mean, he is only 26 years old.
But that's
But
what
at the
I'm
same
saying.
time,
That's what I'm
every
saying.
player could tend to have a really good year. But it's a good year on a bad season.
I think you guys, this is the one thing about this resurgence of talk of and hope and optimism with the Montreal Canadiens. It's easy to play with when you have zero expectations on you. It's easy to play when you were stuck in a system where you had the pressure to win and defend and do everything. And that was hard, and you had to go, and you just came back from a Stanley Cup run, and then you come in here, and all of a sudden there's a new coach. Nobody cares about your defensive play as much anymore. Go out, have fun, no pressure whatsoever. We lose, you give out 6 giveaways, nobody's going to care. And you got to be very, 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 very careful for people who perform well on teams like that, because more often than not, you give them big contracts or you rely on them, and the next year when it counts and when you need them to perform in a high pressure situation, you won't get the same players again. And that's, I think, is going to apply here to a lot of Montreal Canadiens players and their performances here.
Dave,
just something to keep in mind.
Glass half empty kind of.
I'm not being pessimistic. I'm not, because I'm just saying I was very happy with the Marty St. Louis hire. I think I was clear about that. I like the direction the team is going in. I just don't believe that players overnight, because you have a new coach, can switch like that. I think that, it's a whole different ballgame, man. Teams are not, they're not preparing for you the same. They're not viewing you as the top-notch team anymore. It's a lot different. You're not seeing probably, I don't know. I just beware. That's all I'm saying.
You're not buying into the Lehkon-aissance is what I'm hearing.
I am not.
All right.
I've seen enough of Arturi Lehkonen.
Listen,
and I think that he's a great player and he has great hockey IQ. He just can't finish. And I know that we're seeing him score all of a sudden, but this happens to a lot of players.
Okay.
I don't believe it.
Okay. Fair enough.
And I'd love to be proven wrong. Just I'd love to see a first round pick and top 10 or top 5 prospect come this way for Lekhonen.
I think yes. He's doing everything he can to put him in a position, or to put management in a position to try to get those returns. I mean, you're seeing it now, and that's great. So if it happens, it happens.
I'm pretty sure he watched this podcast and he saw how much you believed in him.
I'm telling you,
you know what? I'm going to prove Dave
every
wrong.
day.
He's going to watch this episode and he's going to be like, "What the fuck is a Lehkon-aissance?"
I wake up and I say, "We're in it. We're in the Lehkon-aissance right now."
He's going to trademark it.
I'm telling you. Okay. Enough about Lecky, as much as it pains me to say so. I want to talk about another interesting individual, a gentleman of a tremendous amount of character, and one who is on a team who just outright now has mentioned that they have no desire to bring him back. I'm talking, of course, of PK Subban. And so a lot of people out there, of course, are talking about, oh, this is the perfect time, bring PK back to the Habs. Not should PK come back to the Canadiens. I ask you this, gentlemen, will he come back to the Canadiens?
No.
Dave?
No.
Hold on a second. No? You don't see it? Not at all?
PK Subban's beef was with, I don't know. I don't want to say that it was a beef with Jeff Molson, but I don't think it was limited to Marc Bergevin. And I'm telling you, I was at his first game back when he came back with Nashville. He does not get along with Brendan Gallagher. They hate each other. Okay. They really, really don't like each other. And I'm telling you right now, I just don't see it. I mean, look, crazier things have happened. Okay. We've seen, I think it would be a mistake to bring him back. That's it. Okay. And I like PK Subban, and I think that he should have never been traded. I'm on that bandwagon. I think that he could have been have a whole different career than what he had now. I think he lost the passion, I think, of hockey, and his interests, veered more to the business side and I think that you didn't get the PK Subban that you would have got had he remained the Montreal Canadien. I truly, truly, truly believe that.
I can believe that.
But I think that, there's no righting or wrong here. Even if he comes here,
you're getting 32-year-old PK Subban, and it's been a long time since his Norris days. Yes,
it's only going to lead to disappointment for his old fans, and the people who didn't like him in the first place are going to be disappointed. I don't see why they would bring him back. There's literally no point other than a body coming in. There's literally no point in bringing him back.
Okay,
PK Subban will be a Toronto Maple Leaf.
Yeah,
before.
I don't know
I
how
heard
you
that
say, like,
too.
unless somebody
I
takes
heard
a
that too.
massive amount of that contract. How are you
No,
talking about this year?
I'm not saying for the trade
Next year.
deadline. No,
Next year.
I said
Next year, fresh
he'll be
contract.
he'll be a Toronto Maple Leaf way before him ever being a Montreal Canadian again.
Okay.
I don't think he's gonna be. There's no way they're gonna bring him back. Dave mentioned it, and I don't even have the inside scoop. But it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that there wasn't a whole lot of love between PK Subban and Gallagher. And then now, like not what Dave just said there too, that it wasn't just limited to Marc Bergevin. I could believe that.
The Montreal Canadiens felt disrespected when he went off and did that charity thing on his own.
Yeah.
Okay, he didn't involve the logo, he didn't involve the foundation, he just did it by himself. The feelings were hurt, and I don't think that's limited to Marc Bergevin. I don't even think that involves Marc Bergevin. Now, again, you can mend fences, you could bring him back for a PR tour and a marketing tour, and we all lovey-dovey and whatnot. I just wouldn't,
Again,
and I don't
not
see it
talking talking will it happen?
No, it
Okay,
won't
I
happen.
don't see it
It won't happen, and I don't
Okay.
even think his character would mesh well with Martin St. Louis. If Martin St. Louis is the head coach also next year.
I think Martin
to say that,
St.
and I don't
Louis
even
for sure at this point is the coach next year. But I don't know. To me,
So, no,
I think
they
you can take
should.
any player and put him under Martin St. Louis right now, and he will play the best hockey of his life. I feel like that's what's happening.
Should, would, could. All of it's no.
Okay. Should, would, could. All of it's no. All right. That's the PK thing. There is one thing I wanted to save it for the end because this is a little bit more of a heavier thing to talk about than what we're accustomed to, and it's not really about the Canadiens, so to speak, as it is more so about the league and the upcoming draft. Obviously, there's a lot of a lot happening in the world, to put it very general, and a little bit more specifically. There's the aggression that's happening in Ukraine right now from Russia. And so with that in mind, there's been a lot of different things that have been happening in terms of sanctions and whatnot in the world against Russia, but also a lot of things that are happening to various Russian affiliated businesses and people all across the globe. So they're being boycotted and sort of things like this as well. So where I'm taking this is, I don't think it was talked about very recently, but there's been a couple of people, like insiders and stuff, that talked about that there might be something coming down the pipeline about draft eligible players who are of Russian and even Belarusian descent who might be omitted from the draft. And so I'm curious to think what you guys feel about that. If you're willing to share, if you think that that's right, wrong, is it something that needs to be done? Is it a necessity to kind of part of the collective of the world, or no, this is wrong and it shouldn't happen, and you feel staunchly against it? Either of you can take the thing and start that off.
All right, I'll go. Look, what Russia's done with Ukraine is awful, right? It's absolutely terrible. We all know it. Everybody knows it. There's no denying that. I'm all for putting restrictions against businesses. I'm all for putting restrictions against the government, that not importing the oil. I'm all for these restrictions. I'm all for everything that's based. But these guys are people. These hockey players are people, and they've worked their whole entire lives to make it to this spot, to make it to the NHL. They have nothing to do with with what's going on in Russia. Just like the civilians there don't have much to do either with what's going on with Russia. And business people can pressure Putin and put the pressure on Vladimir Putin and get him to change his course and have a little bit of influence on him. When you start talking money and economics and whatnot, a single Russian Russian hockey player that's 18 years old is not with an entry level, like he's not going to be influencing. That's the last thing I think on Vladimir Putin's mind. And you're talking about ruining a kid's future, ruining a kid's legacy, ruining a kid's career. For no real reason other than jumping on a bandwagon and saying, "Hey, look, we're doing something." I don't believe in it really. I think that the pressure was there to restrict the businesses and to I think that's incredibly important because that's how Vladimir Putin thinks. He runs his country like a business, and that's the point. But I don't think that this is the way to go. I think that it's not going to happen, first off, and I think that if it did, it's sad. It's a very, very sad state of affairs.
I have nothing else to add, and I don't want to add anything to this because whether I agree or disagree with it, I just think this is so out of our control, and I know we can talk about it, but it doesn't give me a good feeling one way or another, and I could see the reasons why they are omitting Russian players and Belarusian players from anything, for that matter. But it'd be one thing if every player that was going to be drafted or that would be part of the draft would be, cheering on for what's going on towards Ukraine. But we don't even know if that's the case. So I don't know. I don't want to add more to this, guys. I'm sorry. But Dave's right.
Yeah.
It's horrible what's happening to Ukraine. It's disgusting, really. But I don't think, as Dave put it, I don't think the decision that was made by the NHL and whoever else is involved is gonna affect Putin's plans one way or another.
No, I think that's fair
Right,
saying. Yeah, you don't have to talk about it if you're not comfortable. I mean, one thing I'll add to the case, because I believe pretty much everything that Dave said is sort of how I feel about it as well. The NHL also came out and said that they're severing, I don't know, communication or whatever with the KHL, or like they're kind of like not looking at each other anymore. They're not talking or whatever it is. That little notice came out a day or so ago. So that to me is enough. It's like one organizational body to another. Part of doing whatever it is that the world is doing, and to kind of come together and do these things to put pressure on Russia to stop the aggression. But yeah, I mean, frankly, I think when it comes down to it, it's hard to justify punishing an individual for what their government is doing. Whether they back it or they don't, you don't know that, but it's hard to do that because you're going to derail a lot of innocent people's lives. Like Dave said, they work their whole lives for it.
The KHL is a bit of a different story, right? Because the players, if I'm not mistaken, get paid in Russian rubles, right? And if I'm not mistaken, they get paid in that. Okay, so their value of the Russian rubles has gone to shit.
Yes.
And there was already rumors circulating that a lot of these players that are in the KHL wanted to jump ship to the NHL.
I think a lot of them have switched over to the Swiss leagues and stuff.
Right. So I can understand why the NHL says, no, you have stop. We don't want you trying to jump ship or teams signing you guys just for the sake of money. And then if and when things go back to normal in Russia, you're going to jump ship again. So I can understand that point of view. But in terms of the draft, which that was what your question was, I'm leaning more towards agreeing with Dave, but I don't want to take a deeper dive into it because I think maybe underneath it all, there's more to it. But it's just a fucked up situation. It's fucked up altogether.
All right, understood. Final thing, a little bit lighter, although I appreciate both your stances on that. Who is the biggest name that will be moved by trade deadline across the league?
Ooh, that's a good question.
The biggest name.
The biggest marquee name to move.
So this basically we're trying to predict it, whether it happens or not.
Is it like Claude Giroux? Is it going to be a Marc-Andre Fleury? Is it going to be, I'm just trying to help you out with some names here. Is it going to be, I don't know, Chikrin from Arizona? Is it going to be...
I'm going to go Fleury. I'll go off the board and say that the Toronto Maple Leafs make a run at Marc-Andre Fleury.
Oh, that would just break my heart, but okay.
Involving a third team that eats like a whole bunch of that salary because obviously the Leafs have no cap room.
I think
that the Leafs are a bit of craziness if they go into this playoffs with the goaltending situation as is now.
There's already people coming up with trade packages on how they can make it work. Somehow Mrazek ends up going the other way, and they end up including it's just nuts.
It's wild.
The biggest name for me.
Yes.
That's out. I want to go out of the box though. I'm going to say Hampus Lindholm. Hampus Lindholm is the guy. I know some of you are like, what, really?
Okay.
But he's young enough that teams would probably take a chance for. And I might not be able to re-sign him at $8-9 million that he might be asking for, or $7.5 million. Dave's rubbing his face like there are so many other players. I'm gonna go with Lindholm, man. I don't know. I just have this feeling
it's hard to put you on the spot. I get it.
It's not It's one of those names that if Matt, I sent you shared a tweet to you and said, "Hey, Hampus Lindholm got traded," you'd be like, "What? Why? So why are you telling me this?" But
I'd be curious, but yeah, no, I understand, and I get it for all you Hampus Lindholm fans out there. Like that would be a big thing. There's a lot of them. He's a good player. I'm not saying no, but the flashiness of his name is not there, like a Fleury and all that stuff. But fair enough. You don't have to justify yourself to me.
Hey,
I appreciate your answer.
That's because he's playing at Anaheim. If he was playing elsewhere,
I think it's going to be a boring trade deadline, guys. I'm getting the vibe, and it's sad to say because Montreal's at the forefront of it, and it's like I have a very bad feeling about this.
Glass half empty, Dave. I'm telling you.
I'm a very optimistic person. I'm being realistic. That's it.
I appreciate that. That's what I say all the time when I say things that are negative. I'm just being realistic. I'm just realistic. Gentlemen, listen.
We'll talk on the 22nd.
There you go. We'll have to have a special show for then. But in the meantime, everybody, again, thank you so much for listening. This is episode Vito 22. This is episode 22. We appreciate each and every one of you taking the time out of your day to listen to us talk about nonsense and Habs and all this wonderful stuff. If you can, please like and share. You know the drill by now. Tell anybody who is slightly interested in hockey to give us a listen to and see if we're their cup of tea. Otherwise, for Dave and Vito, I'm Matt, and we'll hopefully catch you guys in the next one. This was Get Pucked. Get Pucked.